after it. Oh my God, Barry's got a hat. He did not have that on before we went live. That's throwing me off. It's not that cold, Barry. What are you doing? You're on mute, by the way, but I don't. What's with the
Our membership pack arrived today, and you get this beauty. So I thought I'd throw it on in celebration, but no, we can't keep that on. It's sweltering still.
That completely threw my intro off there. I usually have my intro all set and go. But anyway, welcome back to All for United WFC. Obviously, we've got a game that we can talk about that we actually could watch yesterday. Obviously, Manchester United versus PSG, a 1-0 win. It's not quite in PSG's backyard, but it's close enough. Over in Toulouse. We've got a lot to talk about, really, because I thought there were some standout performances. We'll go through that, who we think the standouts were, where we can improve, the new signings, first look at them as well. Some good saves by Sophie Bagley as well, and obviously the goal as well. We'll do what we always do on match reactions and these kind of things, just, I guess, initial reactions to the win. Are we overreacting, and should we underreact? How should we do this? And Barry, I'll come to you first and tie it in with this guy's comment here, because just shows we can have it takes to be up there with the best. Not going to carry away. It's only pre-season. I think we're winning the treble next year, personally, but that's just me. Barry, come to you first. Your kind of initial thoughts off the back of the win yesterday.
Start kicking the furniture about. I think we have to take it with a pinch of salt to a degree. PSG didn't quite have their full team out there. They've got players that haven't played due to the fact they're at the Euros, much like we had with the Lionesses not starting and playing as well. So, I think there is that level that we do need to put there as a word of caution. But having said that, you can only ever play against the teams that are put in front of you. And I think that what we did, for me, without any doubt whatsoever, was that we didn't just match them. We ended up beating them, and comfortably. There was no part during the match where you can sit there and go, oh, do you know what? I was really worried. We weren't under constant pressure. There wasn't a bombardment of shots coming at us. I thought we were, reasonably, we'll go into it deeper, I'm sure, but we were reasonably composed in defence. I thought we fairly controlled the midfield when we had the ball, perhaps a bit of work to do when we were out of possession. And we created some chances, and we scored from what was an absolutely glorious goal, which I'm sure we'll talk about in more detail. So, I was catching it on MUTV on my iPad as best as I possibly could. I had to watch it again when I came back in properly, because it's not so great at the county ground where I was. But yeah, it was good because all the Stevenage players there, one of the managers gone, oh, you can get that rubbish off your iPad, because my lock screen is the United Women's team photo. So of course it was nice to be able to give it back to him when we won 1-0. So nice to have some bragging rights about Manchester United for a change.
No, 100%. And before we move on to yourself, John, the other John is in the comments, John Foster. Yes, make sure you're hitting the like on the video. We're on about 10 already. So if you can, we'll do 20 again. Every time I'm on, I'm just going to say, let's hit the 20 target. And we've gained 2 subs since we've been live in the first 3 minutes as well. So we're 10 away from our 700 target. So if we can hit that as well, that'd be fantastic.
Where's the like button? Whereabouts do you find that?
The like button is somewhere. I'm going to have to watch myself. Hang on. It's down there somewhere. I don't know.
Thumbs up, right?
Yeah, as long as it's a thumbs up. That's
that one.
There. You see here, the like button's there.
Perfect.
The best.
Get that bad boy.
Crikey. And I can see some new people in the comments as well, which is absolutely fantastic as well. So hello to you. Hello to Mickey. I can see you back as well. I'll get to your other comments in a second. But John, just your kind of initial thoughts off the back of yesterday's win over PSG.
Yeah, it was a good win, a good run out for the girls. Obviously, it is pre-season, it is preparing you for the season. I do think it's a good test for the girls. They did come through it. Pleasing that we kept a clean sheet for the second game in a row as well. I think, like Barry says, I thought that we did control the ball reasonably well, but I think PSG obviously had some chances, but we did also, and it took a very good goal from Zelem to win it. I think obviously we'll look at some performances, but I thought Bagley made some good saves during the game, and some of the new signings played well as well, and you can see that looking ahead to the season, they can have a role going forward. So yeah, it was a satisfying performance, and hopefully we can do well on Friday.
Fingers crossed. Hello to TJ. I can see you in the comments as well. Donny, thank you for joining us. Manu is better suited against Munich and PSG. Barcelona and would have caused a lot of problems. I don't actually disagree with that, to be honest. I think the way that Barca press, although I'd like to have seen us play Barca, to be honest, because as Charlie said the other day, a team that presses us, you're more likely, in the Chelsea game and maybe Arsenal as well, and City to that extent as well, will press you in the WSL. So it might have set us up a little better.
Just to touch upon that, sorry, it's also you look back to the Euros as well. Arguably England's toughest game was against Spain and the way they pressed us and everything. And whereas Germany, I think when English versus Germans team, the games tend to be quite similar. Both teams quite efficient. That's why I think against those kind of teams, we might have a chance. Whereas Barcelona, the pressing game in Spain is completely different. So, I echo those thoughts.
But what I would say about that whole Barca thing there, though, is if Barca, you're saying, they're really good because they've done lots of pressure. It didn't help them, did it? Because they lost. So, what did Bayern Munich have that we've got to have that would have beaten a Barcelona if we're so worried about their pressing? Exactly, Mickey. People should just listen to me first time more often. They never do that. They just see the joke in the face and think that under here there's not much going on. But there is.
Sorry, there we go. Yes. I tend to agree with that as well. I think this is a good segue into... We'll talk about the defence first. Because obviously we did have one of our new signings playing in the back four at centre half as well. And if people have watched All for United, you'd have known that I said that before she signed that she potentially was lined up at centre half, and I got slaughtered for that. But there we are. Talking about Blundell struggling in the first half, caught opposition a few times. I wouldn't tend to disagree. But Barry, I'll come to you first in terms of, you can tie it in with Maya's performance as well, because we're going to talk about the new signings as well. But how do you think the defence did? Because I think Sophie Bagley made some good saves in there as well. From a keeper point of view, I thought Maria and Hannah were a little bit shaky on that side, but I thought Honor and Maya, different class on that side.
I think what we saw was, first of all, a good defensive shape. I thought we kept that well. They were working well as a unit. That was pretty good. I think what's really nice is when I first came to watch United live in person, I didn't really know too much about Sophie Bagley because you hadn't seen too much of her in goal. And my natural instincts are to worry whenever your first choice goalkeeper isn't playing, because there's a reason why, the first choice goalie is the first choice goalie and the second choice isn't. But what I've seen from Sophie, both in terms of watching her when she's played in the Conti Cup and things like that, is that actually she's a really safe pair of hands to go between the sticks. And I would say possibly the most underrated player at Man United, potentially, because she doesn't get a lot sung about her or said about her. But actually, when she does come and step in, she performs admirably, I think. So, first half, she made a couple of cracking saves that were really important, kept it at 0-0. I didn't think she was as busy second half. But first half, I thought she worked incredibly hard. When you start looking at the back four, it was interesting. I did giggle when I saw that Myla Tissier was centre back. I just sort of thought over to Marty, who's probably broken somewhere over in America, not entirely knowing what's going on, whether is she a fullback or is she a centre back? What's going on? So I would imagine Marty's moment there and is probably just reboot as we speak, ready for next time we bring Marty.
I want to know if Marty's happy with your impression of her.
Just ask TJ, it's the same person.
Considering my wife lives around that area, right? It was quite a good
We'll find out. But I thought Maya and Honor were really good. Honor looked fit. She showed that obviously she's had a Euro. She's kept herself obviously on it all the way through the summer and the time that she's had off since they went out to England. I think Honor and Maya did exceptionally well. I think Hannah and Thor, they were good. I saw a bit on Twitter about Thor, and I thought I'm going to really watch what she does. And sometimes she does go in a bit like a bull in a china shop. And if she misses that tackle, then obviously it's easy to blame her, but I thought that actually the thing that she's got, she's really brave. You know, there was one shot in particular, she just stood there and took it full force straight in the face from about 6 foot out. You know, and you compare that to me, like I say, I was at a training last night and one of the girls nearly kicked the ball at me. I thought it was coming and I was like, oh, because I had a phone in my hand. So, you know, but not Thor. She, boom, take that, no problem, get up. And another one, please, sir. So, yeah, she wasn't fussed at all. So I actually think she gets a bit of a bad rap at times. So, you know, I thought it was good. It was a good defence. It's missing people. You know, you've still got to think about where Mannion, Turner and Tunkara are going to fit in that. But this is a good thing to be in that sort of situation where you can say, look, that's a clean sheet for 4 fantastic defenders. And we've still got 3 fantastic defenders to help us move that defence around. So I see only positives out of what we did defensively.
No, 100%. And you mentioned poll there. I have actually, we're trying something a little bit new on match reactions. I've stuck a poll in the chat and I can see people voting on it. I'd like to actually see. So basically, for Pete Barry's looking to be very confused. I've put the question out there saying who was your standout player, and we're going to come back to this later on in the show. Myla Tissier is way out in front at the moment in terms of the voting. There's a few people that have voted other. So if you have voted other, when we come back round to this at the end of the show, I'd like to know who that is, because obviously I can only put 4 names on the poll. So people who have voted other, please do let me know towards the end of the.
Who did you put on the poll? Sorry, which 3 did you choose instead of other?
I voted.
So I've got the 3 names I put was Adriana Leon, Myla Tissier, Kaite Zelem, and other. So that's the 3 names, but it could be anybody else. So we'll come back to that a little bit later on. But John, your kind of thoughts on the back line? Like I said, like Barry said, they're very true. We've got 3. You'd argue our starting centre halves not playing in this game as well, but it's another clean sheet. And actually, I will add as well that obviously news came out earlier that before the Liverpool game that we on Saturday, that the girls had played another game before that against Birmingham behind closed doors as well. Now, if that's true, that's 2 lots of games. It was 0-0 in that game, rumored to be. That's 3 clean sheets in a row. So you could argue that's another good backline performance as well, considering this might not be our starting pairing going into next season.
Yeah, I think it was overall a good defensive performance. Obviously, I mentioned Bagley made some good saves, and there was one in particular in the first half. I think was it Paris who went through and split our defence, and she made a very good save. I think Maya and Ona in particular had very good games. In Maya's case, it's possibly the first big test that she had as a signing. Obviously, Ona's like the Dennis Irwin of our female team, ever dependable. You can always rely on her to do well, and I just think, it's good that we've got 3 clean sheets in a row. It shows we're solid. I think it's also pleasing that obviously we know that. Speak about obviously Mary's had a brilliant Euros, winning the tournament for us, and I think the pressure's on Bagley to push her, to continue to push her in everything, and ensure that Mary doesn't, I'm sure she won't, but ensure she doesn't slack just because she's Euros win. Obviously, I don't think she will, but it's good that Bagley can get that confidence, build that pressure, and especially I think was it the last game, the Chelsea Conti Cup game, which obviously she had a nightmare as well. So so it's good for her confidence. I think obviously we defensively, we got a few players out still like Eva and Millie. Arguably, they might be the main starters once they're fit, and I think that's. And that puts pressure on the ones that are playing there. Maya, she obviously play more centre back. Is that because of the injuries and that? Maybe she might move towards a full back position once the defenders start in back. I think there is a bit of pressure on Blundell. I wouldn't say she had a bad first season. I think she was decent as well. Obviously, she did make some mistakes as well. So I think she will benefit from that competition going forwards. And I think Maria, obviously, she was quite dependable last season, I think. And she obviously needs a big season, especially after the disappointment from the Euros.
No, 100%. And just very quickly, because I see Barry wants to jump back in, it is worth taking into account. No, it's not that one. Where's the comment gone? Where's it gone? There we go. Lanzell's comment there, talking about that. They didn't have their full. You could argue obviously we didn't as well, but PSG, a lot of their kind of attacking talent, I guess you could argue, was missing as well. So it is worth taking that into account.
Yeah, which again, Lanzell's spot on there. That was something that I said earlier about them missing players from their front line specifically. But the thing I wanted to add there was that they didn't have the composure. There were occasions where they did break through the defence, and they hit the bar. So that was one thing they definitely did from the header. So you could argue that if that had been just a little bit lower, there's a goal. I thought PSG sort of lacked the composure on the few shots that they did have that sort of could have worried you. About 3 or 4, I think I counted in total. But the other thing I just wanted to add is just how much both Honor and Hannah produce going forward, because the crosses that were coming in, there was a couple of good crosses from Hannah. There were some excellent moments from Honor running down the right. And I think Honor probably had the harder job, because I don't think Lucy is naturally a wide player in that respect, even though she did do very well. So I think it was just really nice as well to see the sort of the attacking thrust that you get from Hannah and Honor still. And I'm excited to see what will happen if we do Honor and Maya as well as fullbacks. Just another thing.
Crikey. Someone got an F1 race going outside their house or something.
Yeah, it always happens. It's like on my car park's here, but the road's on that side, so it's like the full circle.
It's like the snapping going past your window. Jeez.
You get some plonkers in the area. So.
There's a couple of comments here talking about Hannah's position and things like that. And Lanzell, I think you're right. Leah's work rate. I think that's why Leah's almost a guaranteed starter, because what she offers on that left-hand side is the work rate the other way as well. She's very good going forward, but the work rate to get back and help the fullback, I think, is exceptional as well. Yes. As Mickey now, I shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna get torn apart for that on every show now.
Hey, Max.
Rightly so.
Oh dear. And Lanzell, yeah, Maya Tissier I thought was excellent. Like I said, at the moment she is leading that poll by quite some margin. So we will revisit that. We might come back to talking about Maya in a second when we talk about the new signings as a whole, kind of bedding in, because like I said, we've got 4 to talk about. I want to move on to the goal itself, because obviously we're progressing through the team now, going on into midfield, and the goal came from midfield. But it was actually the build-up, I think, the finish is good. It's a good hit from the outside of the foot. I think if that was the other way around, I'd probably want the keeper to save it, personally. I might be being a bit too harsh there, but it is a good strike kind of into the corner there. Barry's going to disagree with me. I can see it coming already. But what do you think, Barry, on the goal then itself? Because it's Zelem edge of the box. It was, like I say, it was nicely worked, I think, to get it onto the edge of the box. Garcia then played it inside, and to have the confidence to hit it is one thing as well. Like I said, it's not a bad finish. I just think personally, I'd want maybe the keeper to save that if that was flipped the other way.
It was amazing. I mean, it's been a poor few minutes from you, really, Connor. Max Verstappen, and now the goalie should have saved it. I think you need to go and have a sit down in a darkened room. I don't see it. I think from start to finish was amazing. Absolutely brilliant. What you'd have noticed is actually just before the goal, I think is equally just as important, because it came literally just after the substitutions. So obviously we had the substitutions where Clinton and Garcia came on. Vilda Boerisa, who checks notes for some reason, was Vilda Kumagai. No idea what that was all about. That was a really strange name that was on there. I sent that to you earlier, Connor. Bit odd. But obviously she came off along with Leon. And just before that, we saw some excellent work from Grace Clinton, winning the ball back further up the pitch. She sends the ball through for Garcia, who doesn't quite manage to score. And then literally within seconds from that happening, the ball comes back down to midfield. And Kaite Zelem, doing what Kaite Zelem does, breaks up the play, wins the ball back, and she just lays it off nicely to Jackie Gronan, who must have been all of about 2 foot away from her. Jackie Gronan, beautiful ball right down through the middle. That one goes to Leah Goulton. Leah Goulton, nicely across to Lucy Staniforth. Staniforth's ball then goes nicely to Lucy Garcia, who just repays the favour to Kaite Zelem, just laying it off nicely for her. And I'd say two things, first of all. Number one, I don't think any of us would have scored it. And number two, I don't think any of us would have saved it either. Because you're not assuming when a midfielder runs onto the ball like that you are going to be facing a ball that is going to be curling away from you from a right-footed player. You're not expecting that. When somebody runs on it like that, there's three things you're expecting. Really, it's either going to be a high shot towards the corners, a low-driven shot, or you're expecting it to go out the park because they haven't had the chance to set themselves well enough. I would say, I'm going to throw this one out there, see what people think, but I think that goal is almost as good, if not better than, Eric Cantona's goal in the FA Cup final against Liverpool.
No.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree.
You're allowed to be wrong.
Season goal versus a winner in the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Technique-wise, I think she's absolutely nailed it.
Right, it's great technique, but Cantona's just he had to get through a whole crowd though, didn't he? So that's been perfect.
But the beauty is, on this channel, we are allowed to disagree, and we can debate this out as because like I said, me personally, I would want the keeper to save it, but I've just watched it back, and I'm going to throw this over to you, John. That when I'm watching the goal back now, like I said, as Barry said there, it's a great bit of play from all of the players there. Jackie into Leah, Stanley, then obviously into Lucia. It's Zelem's kind of awareness just to keep going. As soon as she's laid it into Jackie, she's off. She's bombing then onto the edge of the box. I think that's what we might see differently. One of the notes that I've written down when I was watching the game was, I'm going to tie this into the goal here. The Zelem and Jackie pivot that we saw a little bit last season, they're very aware of where each other is. So watching that goal back, Jackie sat back because she could see Zelem bombing forward. And that happened a few times where you had Jackie going forward and Zelem sitting back. So I guess, do you expect to see that more, that this double pivot kind of way of playing, that one sits, the other one bombs on, presses high, and also it can lead to goals like that. You've got Zelem then leading onto it, and it is a good strike to hit that and keep it low, I think, is the key thing there.
I think, I completely agree, and I think it's probably something you'll work on it because ultimately you can't just rely on your forwards to score goals. You also need some of your midfielders to chip in, and I think, when I'm going to the men's team during the 30 years, but you think of the number of goals Paul Scholes you score, coming into the box and everything. I think you got to have the ability to score all different kinds of goals and all that. And I think it was also an impressive touch by Lucia Garcia because she almost cushioned it into Zelem's path. It was a delicate touch, but it was good enough. And I think with Zelem's, I do agree that the technique was brilliant. I think in regards to the keeper, I think she would have been a bit surprised that she hit it with the outside of the foot into that corner, because in many ways that's the hardest thing to do. It would have been easier to strike it with your laces into the near post. That's why I think it's a harder finish to hit it with the outside of the boot into the far corner. That's why maybe the keeper might have been surprised by it, and that's why I think Zelem's goal was quality in that regard. And I do think it, like you say, it was noticeable. You got to know midfielders, you got to know each other's game plan, so that if one of them does bomb forward, the other one can remain back if the opposition is to counter with the ball and everything. Like I say, that used to happen all the time. United, when it was Carrick used to hold back, Scholes would bomb forwards, or Keane would hold back, Scholes would bomb forward. Sometimes it was the other way around. There'll be times when Zelem sits back and Jackie goes forward. It's so I think it's good that you have people making those runs because, like I say, you can't just rely on your forwards to score you the goals. Your midfielders have to chip in as well.
You're right, and I think that was interesting as well, that the way that he played the three. So obviously he played Gronan alongside Zelem, which I think worked, really well. I thought the two of them actually played some good football together. Vilda was obviously slightly further forward, and then Grace replaced her when she came in. And, I think Grace was actually better out of the two yesterday. I think she had an excellent performance. Again, the energy and the way she gets stuck in is absolutely fantastic. But again, excited because I can still remember one of my first shows talking about the midfield, and it's like, how do you put these people into the puzzle? And it's really nice to see that Marc's working out what his best midfield is going to be. And don't forget, we've still got Ella Toon potentially to come back and go into those positions. So what that's going to say for people like Vilda and people like Grace, I'm not entirely sure. And it's also nice to say that even though John hasn't physically said it, he's agreed with what I said about how hard the technique was there for the Kaite Zelem goal. And so therefore, I think deep down, he fully understands and accepts what I was saying. And have we all noticed as well that Marty's rebooted and is back? So I'm very much looking forward to her replaying the start of today's show.
Yeah, I was just going to come to that. Marty, welcome to the stream as always. You go back about 15 minutes. I think it was about that. just rewatch the show. Barry's done a fantastic impression that's well worth listening to. And in answer to TJ's question, it wasn't her debut. She came on West Ham away, I believe, last year. I remember her coming on at West Ham. I'm sure it was. And I've lost the comment again. Lanza's comment, you can see Ladd more being for the big three game. Yeah, I fully agree. I think in the games where you're going to have more of the ball, Jackie and Katie can do more than enough in that midfield. I don't think you need a proper sitting player in there. Moving on to the forward line, and then we're going to look at kind of standout performances, areas to improve, and kind of look a little bit at the new signs as well, because this is going to be a slightly shorter show. So I'm sorry, apologies, we're kind of rushing through all of this. But looking at the attacking line, now, me personally, like you mentioned Bo Rita there, to be honest, I forgot she was playing for most of the game because she just didn't touch the ball, it seemed. She wasn't really involved in the game. Same with Staniforth, I don't think she had a great game. Now, like I said at the start, you've got to outside in the air of caution whether we won or lost this game because it's pre-season. Ultimately, it's minutes in the legs. It's getting the new signings bedded in, that kind of thing. But the area I want to tie into this, and Barry, come to you first. Adriana Leon, for me, was my player of the match, purely because the movement on and off the ball created a lot of chances, particularly in that first half. I thought, as Lanza was saying there, work rate was spot on. I think she's got a good link up with Galton on the left as well. And the one thing I noticed from Leon in particular, she's not afraid to move into different, similar to Russo. She's playing striker, but she moves all across the front line. Whether you could argue whether that's a good or bad thing, but how do you think that front line worked? Obviously, that's not going to be our starting 11, going into next season. I think we're all agreed there, but they all did pretty well. It's actually just very quickly worth mentioning Garcia as well. I'll throw her into the mix because, again, she was very close to going on this poll that I've put out as well. She had a top game when she came on.
I was intrigued to see Staniforth in the position she was on the pitch. I wasn't surprised to see her play, but I was surprised to see her, as I say, playing on the right of the three. It just didn't quite seem like the place where you would have expected Lucy Staniforth to be. I thought that maybe she might have been the one to have dropped in behind, be a bit more of a playmaker type position, or to be running into any bits and pieces on the edge of the box. So I did find that a little bit strange. But having said that, I think she did really well. You could argue she's effectively got an assist for the goal. I know that Garcia was the one who laid it off, but ultimately it was Staniforth's pass across goal across the edge of the box that led to that. So, I think she did well, Staniforth. I don't think we can say she was poor, but I also wouldn't say she's on the list of people that's going to win the poll. I think she did give a lot to the cause, and like I say, playing slightly out of position and playing football because she hasn't been for a while. She's been getting sub appearances more often than not. So I would assume she played against Liverpool. We don't know, but I think for me, she did all right. But is she going to be starting there in the season? No, there's no way it's going to be Lucy Staniforth in that position, because you look at the quality of the players that we've still got. Immediately, if I said to you, right, Alessia Russo's got to go into that three, which one of the three are you going to drop? I think Staniforth would be the first one there. Stanny was not right. Oh my God. Throw that one there for you, love. I love it when they do it. I think, laugh, mute yourself. But I think the other two, I thought were really quite good. I thought it was a surprise to see Leon up front. I thought she was going to be the one on the right. So the fact that she started up front was really interesting. I thought the effort was there. She had there was a brilliant little run. I think it was Staniforth that tried to put her through, but Leon just couldn't get through to it. It was, not the best of finishes from Garcia, from Leon. Then when Garcia came on, I thought she did really well as well. Leah Galton, for me, I thought was superb all the way through. 100% for me. She's going to be one of the first names on the team sheet again. She's just constantly working hard and constantly putting the effort in. So, I liked the front three, but I absolutely am. We're just not in a position where we're not going to say that's our final three. But I think all the way through, they worked hard. There was lots of good effort and endeavour from all of them. Good attacks on goal. It was just a shame that, it took until the goal really for us to really have much of an attacking threat.
No, fair points. And John, I'll throw it over to you in terms of how you thought the attacking line did from. And like I said, it's tough because these are players. Like I said, Leon's coming to the side. Stanley's playing out wide. You could argue, is that our best position nowadays? Obviously Leah's in a natural position, Barisa in the 10 there, but we didn't have a lot of the ball. But I thought when we did have it, I thought Barisa did link up in the time she did have the ball well with Leon. I thought Leon's movement off the ball and Galton's movement as well was fantastic. But where do you kind of look at on this attack? Are you worried at all? Or you think that's an area maybe we need to be looking at? But I say that, like I said, you look at the players that weren't even in the squad attacking wise, and the players that we brought on, and also what you thought of Garcia as well when she came on.
I mean, we've got obviously a pretty good forward line. We got Rousseau to come back. Obviously got Galton, got Paris. You got Zuni. You got all these different kind of players. But I think we have strengthened it. Obviously, Leona, she had a very good game yesterday. And I think you've also got, I can't remember now, Williams as well. And I think with those, I think those were signings where some of the fan base were maybe questioning possibly. So I think they need to have a big season that are they the strongest players to have. Only time will tell. So, but I do think we have strengthened the front line. I don't have any particular concerns with that. But I think the big issue when you look back to last season was it was the draws that killed us. A lot of those 1-1s, like when we were winning with 10 minutes ago and everything, like we could have killed off that game sooner. So I think the challenge for this team is when you are on top in games this season, get that second goal, and if you get that second goal more often than not, you'll win the game, and rather than draw it. So I think that's the challenge for this team, and I do think we strengthened the front line. Obviously Leon's movement was pretty good. Galton, she's obviously, we didn't see the Liverpool game, but obviously she scored in it. So obviously, she appears she's having a good pre-season. And I think as soon as you start to get these England players back, I think we should be okay, I would have thought.
Yeah, 100%.
Sorry, it's just a lot of people I've seen in the comments have been going, Lucy Staniforth missed a shot in the first half, and she really should have scored. And I don't see anybody sitting there saying Grace Clinton should have scored with the header from Garcia's cross, or that Garcia should have scored.
Garcia had a chance as well
from the ball that Clinton put through. People miss chances. That's going to happen. That's going to happen all year. We're going to sit there and go, "Oh, they could have scored."
I think you make an important point. It's about creating all the chances, chance after chance after chance, and but okay, but we won the game 1-0 ultimately. It doesn't, at the end of it, all that matters is the result. Do you get the goals and all that? And like I say, we do have more clinical players to come through, like Ruth. So, she's the type where she has one chance, she can bury it, and I'm not particularly too concerned about that. And it's pre-season. A lot of the time is when you miss these chances because, you're not, pre-season is to get you ready for a season, so you won't be 100% at the start, so that can explain some of the missed chances as well. So when you get a few games under your belt, they might start burying those chances. So, ultimately, if you're going to miss them in pre-season.
And Lando's spot on there. They're not even sharp yet. And I counted 2, Marty, if I'm honest with you, that Stanley missed. So you could argue that's multiple, but I don't think it was atrocious from anyone. There wasn't that many shots to miss, all told, really.
No, 100%. And Ravi, welcome to the stream. How tricky will Bayern be, and who do United need to watch out for? All of them. Every Bayern player, I think, because their squad is pretty stacked, considering that's not their full team either. I mean, you could
Absolutely. Siobhan Chamberlain, listening to her on the commentary, made a superb point about that, is that they're going to be annoyed because, if there's a lot of German players in the Bayern Munich camp, they're really going to want to try and get one over on some English opposition. So, us winning the Euros in that respect might...
They were probably more annoyed that George Stanley chose Sweet Caroline as a song of choice.
I know it's not a popular opinion, but I really like her. I'm sorry, that's just so cool. What a thing to do.
Yeah, and to be fair, Mickey, you raise a good point. That they are quality players, the 2 players you've just named there, but it will be good for Hannah because she's now going to have to test herself against tougher opposition. And Skinner will learn a lot more about his squad play in these types of opposition than if we were playing championship opposition in all pre-season. But Lanzo, you are very right. What about Stanway in a friendly? As long as we come out with no injuries, I don't really mind what the result is too much. And just before we move on, because I want to talk about the new signings in a little bit more detail before we wrap up and look to our kind of standout. We'll just quick fire around the 3 of us. Do you think Man United can finish higher than Arsenal given the squad that we've got now? Go on, Barry, I'll come to you first on that one.
Higher than Arsenal? I think we can finish higher than Arsenal and Man City, if I'm brutally honest. I think when you look at how they were last season, I think City struggled, and I'm not convinced they're not going to struggle this season either, based on some of the people that have left. So I think actually the question is, can we finish above City? And the answer to that is yes. Can we then finish above Arsenal? I think so. You've got to give Arsenal their due. They've got some fantastic players. Beth Mead has been, playing out of her skin over this last year. You can't discount someone like Miedemar, Ford, Ward even. They've got great players. They really have. And a very good goalkeeper, as you constantly tell me, Connor. So, even though I think she is a 10-yard keeper and is allergic to kicking the ball past the halfway line. But I think despite all of that, I think, we could. The big question is for me, can we finish above Chelsea? And I think that's the thing that really gets me. Genuinely, I sit there and that's what I wonder about. Could we compete against them? Because we weren't a million. I mean, I remember being on a show with you guys, and I know you're never always a fan of my consistent positivity, but I actually had you at one point going, we are only 4 points off the top. We could get to a point where actually we're within it. So we weren't a million miles away during that run-in. So take our chances. You just never know. So, we could.
I think Chelsea walk away with the league, but that's my own personal opinion. Go on, John, if your brief answer on that one.
Do I think we can finish higher than Arsenal? Well, interestingly, I did make a point on Twitter a few months back that I thought potentially if we were to invest this summer, that I felt probably the team we could potentially get passive words again the top 3. I thought Arsenal might be the one we could potentially challenge. Have they signed anyone? I know they hadn't a few weeks.
They're about to.
They're about to, right? Okay, so well, it depends who they're getting. Obviously, Barry mentioned about City that obviously they have brought in some players, but they've also lost some key players. So it's one of them where I'm sure they'll do well, but they'll need to settle. And I do think we'll still be in the top 4 teams in the country, but it's going to be difficult. The question is, can we learn from our mistakes last season and all that? So I do think we have strengthened this season, this summer. So hopefully it will propel us to put a really good challenge for top 3 again. And I think hopefully if we get it close this time, we might just get over the line. But it's a long season, so it's hard to say whether we'll finish above them. But hopefully we can.
Yeah, no, 100%. And where's Donny's response? I asked because Arsenal struggled in this. I agree. I actually put the statement out about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, that we're going to get third this season and it'll be Arsenal that drop out. And in answer to your question, Hurtig, give it a day or so and it will be.
The big challenge also, it depends how far these teams get in the Champions League as well, because that can have an impact on the league if they're having to play Europe on a Wednesday and then play on a Saturday or Sunday. That can also have impact. So it depends how far they get in Europe as well, because we don't have Europe. So that can be a factor as well.
Potentially. And that's where you need squad depth. And do you like that seamless transition into squad depth, talking about potentially our new signings that have come in as well? Because I think we'd all agree that does add good squad depth. We'll try and go through this very briefly in terms of how you'd summarise, I guess, the new signings' performances. Obviously, we saw 4 of them over the course of the game. Leon and Milo Tissier starting, Garcia and Clinton coming off the bench. I thought all of them, to be honest, very, very good, solid performances. Clinton and Garcia particularly coming off the bench. Very surprising. Like I said, you could argue should have scored for that goal, with Garcia's cross into Clinton's header. Pretty good header, but, very central. Chances like that, fantastic. And Garcia had a chance towards the end as well, running through one-on-one. Defender did get back quite well, but hit it into the side net, so there's chances there. But Barry, how would you kind of summarise our kind of new signings performances? Because for me, that is what pre-season's about, getting these new signings bedded into the squad.
Absolutely. So let's cover the 3 that didn't play first of all: Williams, Paris, and Tunkara. I think every single one of them is going to have a part to play. Probably Paris and Tunkara, maybe slightly bigger ones, with Williams being there potentially for backup, and I think potentially for substitute appearances and things such as that. Looking at the players, I think out of the 4 that played last night, Milo Tissier was the big highlight for me. She was the one who I thought was the best out of the 4. She just fit in seamlessly. Every time we were listening to something that happened in the defence, it was her that was clearing it, her that was chasing it. So, yeah, really impressed with Maya and what she did. I thought Leon was superb up front as well. I didn't, I see people saying, I'm still not convinced. Well, apart from scoring, I'm not really sure what else she could have done. She had people tackling her. She had people fouling her. She was the one who caused them to get a yellow card just before half-time. She made good runs. She worked hard on the ball. She won the ball. She, gave the ball for chances as well. So I think Leon, really, really good. Clinton was second best for me in terms of impressing me. I thought, again, she came on and as I said, I really do put the goal down a lot to her energy immediately, winning that ball back high up the pitch, which led to the goal kick, which led to Kaite doing the challenge, So it's little things like that. She doesn't make that challenge. It's PSG going off on the attack and the goal probably doesn't happen, because little things like that do change the way that a game is going. So, yeah, really impressed with Clinton. And again, Garcia, I thought she played exceptionally well. I think the key thing for me is that we've looked at those 4 people who have come in now. We're looking at 3 more that could come in. And I think for me, you just sit there and say, we've got all that depth and we still haven't mentioned Russo, Toon. I think it's just superb. It's brilliant. So, again, I'm excited. I really, really am. I think it's going to be superb having these signings. They've certainly impressed so far, but it's a long season.
No, 100%. And John, you're not the only one here raving about Leon and people criticised. If you watch our reaction show that we did to Leon, nearly all of us on here, if you speak to anyone over in Canada, highly, highly rated player. And I don't think it's going to be a surprise that if she does well for United this season, that the fans that saw that, just because she had a rough time at West Ham, I don't think that defines one season, as we spoke about with Paris, doesn't define a player. There's a lot of people watching, making sure you're liking the video. We're going to go through our standout player in a second before we look to wrap up, because I can see the poll. I think there's only one winner, really, but I'm going to come to that in a second. But, John, what do you think in regards to our 4 new signings there that we saw yesterday?
I thought they all did very well. I think my personal favourite, yes, it was Maya. I do personally think that of all the times there's someone that she's the one that I'm looking at potentially long term. She could turn out to be the best one personally. I think she had a very good game. Lucia, like you mentioned, she had a very good game when she came on. Like I mentioned, the touch for the assist for Zelem was brilliant. Leon, as we mentioned, had a very good game. I think she could be a useful weapon this season. And Clinton, she's obviously a young girl. It'll take time for her to develop and everything. So we don't want to put too much pressure on her at this point. But again, another positive from yesterday as well.
100%. And welcome back to the channel, I'm going to say. A little introduction. Andrew Wall. I've only just noticed I was bringing the comments up there. And Andrew will be back on the channel very soon. But yeah, makes a very good point. Garcia could prove crucial for us this season. She adds extra quality to the attack. I think that's a very good point because I can see John's comment at the bottom there. Because someone raised the question a bit earlier on in terms of could we see, I think it might have been Lance. I'm sorry if it was somebody else. Somebody saying that potentially could she start as striker next season? I don't see it personally because I think we've got too many options there now that can play down the middle. But it's another dimension to the attack that we lacked last season. And the comment that was this one, because if anyone knows, John and Andrew are joined at the hip at the moment. is a nice way of putting that. We'll come to the poll then. I want to quickly talk about the standout and then a quick area to improve. I'll ask each of you for one area. So the poll is in, or the poll result is in. Thanks to everyone who's voted. Everyone who voted other, can you let me know who it would have been? Like I said, because I can only put 4 options on there. So Maya Tissier 50%, Leon 18%, Zelem 18%, and other 14%. So obviously Maya way out in front. Barry, John, do you disagree with that? Maya Tissier player or standout player from yesterday?
You can go first, Jim.
Zelem got the winner, so no, I'm joking. No, I think Maya was impressive yesterday with a clean sheet, and for like I say, her first test, even though it's pre-season, she had a very good game, so I do think she's deserving of it.
Yeah, I disagreed. I did. I'm going to get told off for it. People to go, oh, player FC and all that jazz. I don't care. She was superb. She was the first name that I wrote down when I was watching the match and I did my notes. And that's what she did. She was pressing. She was working hard in the middle of the pitch. She was talking. And I'm not talking about just, that little random bit that you do where you're talking to your mates as you walk past. She was leading on that pitch. And then she goes and scores an absolute worldie, which, only happened because she won the ball in the first place and started and finished her own move. I think it can be easy to get caught up in the hype of things that are good. And Maya was superb. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely brilliant performances all round. But yeah, for me, I just think Kaite absolutely nailed it. So I'm ready for all the drama that's going to come with me saying that I might have lost ounces of credibility that I never had in the first place. I don't care. Kaite Zelem rocked it.
There we go. I knew, Marty, you'd be in there.
I did. I watched the whole thing, Marty. I watched it last night. I'll grant you that, the first half. And then I watched it again this morning just to make sure I wasn't talking rubbish.
No, I think it's a fair comment. Me personally, I actually went for Leon when I voted on this poll because I just thought her movement opened up a lot of chances. Maya Tissier, yes, I can see why people are saying her. I think that's what it is.
I can see the point. Yeah, Zelem's goal was quality, though. Goal worthy winning any game, including the Grand National.
No,
I really like him.
No, Mickey always puts some great comments, and I'm glad, Mickey, you're on board with the in the All United
like
chat.
More Mickeys.
In many ways, it's not good to do a player match because to win a game, you're going to need quite a few players to play well. So it seems like when it's a team sport, it's unfair to say one person was better than all the others. As a collective, we played well. So.
He's criticising the poll already.
No,
it's the first time I've tried it.
The player of the match were the Barmy Army that were there.
No, 100%. For the 10 or so United fans that made the trip over, fair play, because I thought you could hear them all on TV. Right, one final question to each of you before we look to wrap up, because I know Barry's got to shoot off. An area. Go on. There we go.
She might have had a go at me, but she did improve. So you see, Zelem wasn't as bad as all that.
There you go. Works both ways. Where do you think? Where do you think we can improve then? Because obviously there is areas to improve, as there always is going to be off the back of the game. Come to each of you. Just only one area. Because obviously I know you could list off a whole host of things, but if you can pick one area that we need to improve on that you saw from yesterday's game, where would that be? Start with you, Barry.
Okay, it's between two for me. Number one, it was, although we were fairly solid defensively, I think if Paris had their best players up front, the shots that had been taken would have been on target, and so therefore it would have brought into question whether or not Sophie would have been able to. So the fact we let them through to have those opportunities was a bit of a worry, and that was all really mainly between half time and the goal. So I think that would be one, and then the other one is just composure, as we said. Whether it be Staniforth, whether it be any of the other three, they just needed to do a little bit better with their striking. I mean, Clinton's header was on goal. Staniforth had one that went wide. I think so again, it's just shooting. But all of these things, we say, what do they need to improve? Pre-season, it's the first real game that they've had to watch it against quality opponents. So, I think, if I'm honest, it's a bit of a harsh question in terms of what needs to be improved, because we've not given them enough time to gel together and to work. So there we go. That's what needs to improve. Squad cohesion with the new signings. There we go. Look at that.
You've gone through all kinds of accents there. That was really posh.
Yeah, I can do that. My telephone voice. Hello, how can I help you? My baby caller will put you on hold.
John, just talk.
I agree with some of the comments like John Fry, and I think someone else mentioned. I think the left side of defence, particularly left back, I touched upon earlier about Blundell. Obviously, she didn't have a bad first season, but I do think unfortunately, at times she's culpable to make a defensive error, and I do think that's something that she needs to iron out of the game. So that's probably the one area. If you have a good side with good wingers, I think that's possibly our vulnerable area. And but yeah, I do agree with Harry's point about composure. Like again last season, when we didn't score the number of chances that we had in games where we drew, which we should have taken. It's about having that clear mind in front of goal and be able to finish and that kind of thing. I think that's the other area we need to improve.
No, very well put points. That was. I had to slow that down, because if I'd have tried to say that quickly, I think I would have completely messed it up. I think that for me it's that left hand side. But like Barry said, it's first game of pre-season. Really, obviously, I know they played on Saturday, first real big test. But the other thing for me is clinical finishing. I think if we're going to go far in the WSL, obviously next season, and really push on for the top three, we've got to be able to kill off games. I felt like yesterday we could have killed that off. And it might not have been a nervy, but as Barry said as well, so could PSG. If they had had their shooting boots on, they could quite easily have put us to bed as well. And sorry, Marty, you would not want to hear my... I don't actually have a telephone voice. I think it's an older generation thing, because it's certainly not not something I partake in. Very quickly then, before we wrap this up, are we beating Bayern on Friday? I'll give you a score prediction chance. So, Barry, I'll come to you first.
One believes that, yes, we shall be beating Bayern Munich, and we shall do it by 3-1.
Do you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of like some 80s Sky Sport. Well, Sky wasn't around then, but you know what I mean? Like 80s football commentary, and they're reading the scores out as the matches are finished.
Yeah. I could try doing that. The classified results: Manchester United winning 3, Liverpool 0.
I tell you what we should do for a show. Barry doing an American accent, Mars doing an English accent.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool, what was the question anyway?
Score prediction for Friday.
Score prediction. I think it'll be a tougher test. Unfortunately, I do think we'll probably concede to them, but I think might be a bit sharper as well. So I'm going to go 2-1 United.
There's a lot of people. Oh my god, I've lost all the comments now. Yeah, there's a lot of shouts for that as well. I predict us to lose, so we won. So I'll do it again. 2-1 Bayern, 1-1 and win on penalties. That would be quite something. Going for a 2-1 win, 1-0 to Bayern. I think whatever happens, like I said earlier, it's a good test for the goals again. So yeah, plenty to look forward to. And John, quiz show, and appreciate you joining us. As everyone in the comment, there's been so much discussion in the comments. Well over 40 people watching now, so if you can, make sure you're liking the video and subscribe if you're new around here. We are going to have to wrap it up there because Barry has to shoot off. However, I will announce Friday. Keep an eye on Friday's show. We might be changing the schedule very slightly. And doing a special show on Friday, so keep an eye on the All for United WSC Twitter for that.
Don't get excited, I'll still be here.
Yes, yeah, we're not changing it too much that we've sacked Barry. He's still sticking
What
around.
time's the game on Friday?
I think it's 8.
I think.
What time we doing?
I'm sure they're going to keep it the same.
Either way,
keep your eye on the Twitter account.
Either way, keep an eye on All for United WSC Twitter account because it will be announced on there, likely tomorrow potentially. Yes, it'll be announced tomorrow, so keep an eye on that. Like I said, make sure you're liking the video and subscribing if you are new around here. Like I said, we're very, very close now to 700, so that would be great if you could. Thank you to Barry and John for joining us. We will be back, like I said, on Friday and after that as well, when we will be a trophy heavier, so to speak. See you guys soon.
Our first major trophy for the girls. Bring it home.
There we go. We'll end it there. See you guys soon.